Yeah, it's a hot day. I'm hanging in the sunshine. You should hit me with the splash gun so I cool down. Won't you come on over? We can party till the sun's down. Baby, let me buy you a drink while we're dancing a blink. I could go for some Queen Bee too. AC's going boom boom. If you're looking for some crazy, I'll tell you everybody's standing by the line for the water slide. You can come on over. We can take the roller coaster. And you know everybody's looking for a ride in the water slide. On a wave of good feelings. Well, it's just another Friday in paradise. So bring your A game, 'cause you know this party won't stop. We could never run out of time, sipping strawberry lime. You know I wanna share it with you. AC's going boom boom. If you're looking for some crazy, I'll tell you everybody's standing in a line for the water slide. You can come on over. We can take the roller coaster. And you know everybody's looking for a ride in the water slide. It's getting kinda crazy up in here. Got that DJ playing music, everybody wants to hear it. It's getting kinda crazy up in here. Everybody wants to ride in the water slide. 3, 4. If you're looking for some crazy, I'll tell you everybody's standing in a line for the water slide. You can come on over. We can take the roller coaster. And you know everybody's looking for a ride in the water slide. Water slide. Yeah, it's a hot day. I'm hanging in the sunshine. You should hit me with the splash gun so I cool down. Won't you come on over? We can party till the sun's down. Baby, let me buy you a drink while we're dancing a blink. I could go for some Queen Bee too. AC's going boom boom.
Well, good morning, everyone. Just popping in for our usual show. Just let me know too how the audio is, because last week some people were saying I was too loud. So let me know if everything's okay. I've just realised though that I forgot to put in the photography videography school that I was live. So I bestest do that now. Let me do it. Where are we? Photography. There we are. Let me put in that we're going live now on YouTube. Live now on YouTube. UTUB. I can't spell. And let me do that, and let me post it. Oh yeah. And let me put that to the top of the group so people know that I'm here. Pin to featured, which I've done, and then let me pin it to the top. And I will do that right now. Pin to top. All done. Beautiful. Okay, let me quit that. So how are we all? Yeah, let me know if the audio is great. Audio sounds fine. Have you been blogging about the A7000? I love it. I'm going to go just through these. Let me just bring up the pre-show, because just so people know that we're on pre-show. So Steve's in here. See if I can bring that up. Oh, how come that doesn't show? Social. Well, that's interesting. Let me see here. Social. Does that bring it up? No. I've got a bit of a bug happening here. That should be working. I wonder why not. I'm seeing it on my side, but I'm just not able to post the question. Let me go to rundown. Oh, hang on, I think, do I have to? Bear with me for a second, guys, just I want to see if I can get these up. Well, this is a bit weird. Let me just quick over to my other computer. I've got a bug going. Everything else is working, I noticed, but I can't get the chat to show. Let me just play another video while this is happening, and I'll just have a play with it, just why this is going on. Let me go back to... Let me go auto. I'll just see if I can fix this for you all now.
Yeah, it's a hot day. I'm hanging in the sunshine. You should hit me with the splash gun so I cool down. Won't you come on over? We can party till the sun's down. Baby, let me buy you a drink while we're dancing a blink. I could go for some Queen Bee too. Easy's going boom boom. If you're looking for some close love, I'll tell you everybody's getting on the line for the water slide. Oh, you can come on over. We can take the roller coaster. And you know everybody's looking for a ride in the water slide. Oh, oh, on a wave of good feelings. Well, it's just another Friday in paradise. So bring your A game, cause you know this party won't stop. We could never run out of time, sipping strawberry lime. You know I wanna share it with you. Easy's going boom boom. If you're looking for some close love, I'll tell you everybody's getting on the line for the water slide. Oh, you can come on over. We can take the roller coaster. And you know everybody's looking for a ride in the water slide. Oh,
Well, I've got no idea, so let me shift this off. I just updated this program. Let me just turn this off there. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I got an update to this program that I use for chats, and it just doesn't seem to be functioning right at the moment. So I made a few changes, so I think I'm just going to have to do it without the chat, so you guys can see the chat anyway. Now, does that... Yeah, that's all still going to work. I can still do the show because I can still bring over the news stories and everything else. Just let me see who's in here. We've got Steve Wag is here. G'day, Steve. How you going? Barry also said good morning from sunny Brisbane. The Happy Clam is here. Good afternoon from the rainy Oregon coast. John's here as well. What's up? From New York City. George said, greeting from New Jersey, where we've been waiting for years for Sony to release the long room at A7000 APS-C camera. George also said, morning, David, and hello, everyone. The Happy Clam said the audio is great. I did ask that because last time someone said my audio was a bit loud. John said, cool hat, but would you consider a boater? They're coming back. What's a boater? Greetings from Southwest Florida. The H2S has a bunch of stuff going for it. It looks interesting. It does actually, Charbox. It really does. Dario said, hello, David. Mark said, what is a live show without a bug? I know. I use this the program for the chat, though, Mark, and it's usually works fine, but it's not today for some reason. Everything else is working, but I can't seem to find... Let me just go back to macros. See, they're all working, but I can't get the other features to work, which is weird because the chat should just show up and it's not for some reason. Yeah, I don't know why. It's showing it's active, but it's just not showing in there. Oh, well, doesn't matter. So who else is here? Dario saying, hi, David. John said, Mark Fresh Vision. Billy said, from Jackson, Mississippi, new camera means a new update. Way to beat us, Sony. Thank you so much. Sting is saying, good day, David. Matt is saying, new tech is always fun. Hurts my wallet every time. Tell me about it. John Burnett's also saying, hi, how are you, John? And Tech and Food said, hello, David. So we're basically up there, guys. I will check the chat. I just can't show it on the screen. So let's go into the news because we've got some interesting things going in there. Now, can I just take off Preshow? Yes, I can. Ooh. Oh, I just love learning new stuff. Hopefully the stream's holding up all right. I'm streaming 4K again. It looks like it is at this stage. Now, let me just go over to the news stories because we're going to have a look there. We go auto. Now, please work. Please. Oh, now I've lost the switcher control. Oh, boy. Come back, ATM. My whole thing's playing up this morning. Last time I do changes just before I do it. Connection, that should be working. Connect. All right, now it's back, I think. I love it. I love all these problems. Is it? Yes, yes, I love it. Oh, well. Well, I don't get paid for doing this, do I? So, I mean, it's not like you're paying for it either. All right, so first story, because I wanted to talk about this today, because this is really interesting. Now, I know I went through this all with you last week, but there's some interesting things going on with Sony have announced 3 new lenses, and I'm going to talk about those in a story after this one, actually. But I'm just starting to think now. Oh, Long Rider just gave a donation. So sorry, Long Rider. I can't bring it up on the screen. I wonder if I can play the sound. Hang on. Here we go. Let's see if it works. No, even that's not working. Yeah. I tried to do some changes to this little Steam Deck thing that I use. It's a bigger version of this thing here. Where are we? Where's the camera? It's a bigger version of this. And I made some changes late yesterday, and I thought that I'd had it working this morning, but then I had a couple of issues, and I tried to quickly fix it, and it's obviously thrown things up all over the place. So sorry about that, but I'll fix it straight after the show, actually. But thank you so much, Long Rider, for the donation. Really appreciate it, buddy. You just said hello all. Well, I'm sure you guys can see it anyway. So yeah, I'm just interested about this, that looking at what they're saying, this is a review on Petapixel, and they gave this camera a very good review, in fact. They said it's probably the performance king of APS-C cameras now. It is a lot smaller than it looks, though, and I did discuss this last week too, that it is quite considerably smaller than what it appears here. It looks like it's quite a big camera because of the design. But, you know, they say in this actually a little bit further on that after holding it for a couple of hours, his hands were quite sore, I think. But overall, it looks nice. I mean, I like the build quality of this. It seems to be that it's really nice. It just looks like a miniature, you know, digital SLR or mirrorless camera. They're saying it lacks certain buttons, etc., or naturally because it's, you know, it's a lot smaller. But just to show you, you know, fully articulating screen looks nice. It looks great in the weather sealing. It's got the stupid micro HDMI. I mean, honestly, why they put that into things now, I don't know. Excuse me. But the ergonomics look really nice of the whole camera. I really like the way that this is laid out particularly. It looks like it will be really well weather sealed. Now, did it say? Yeah, it says here. See, another issue with the new body shape is how overly compact it is. A problem I also expressed in my first impressions of the R10, the other APS-C camera launched today. They're basically very, very similar, these two cameras. It said it only took a couple of hours shooting before the finger on my grip developed a blister from rubbing against the lens. In other words, there's no room from where you hold the camera to where the lens is, and then, you know, you're going to get sore hands. I might be all right because I've only got small hands, and the small hands does not mean I've got small things elsewhere. Just ask Kerry. You know what I'm talking about. Now, I should say I've got huge feet. Anyway, they're saying that it was cramped and stuff like that. But look, you'd expect it because it's not meant to be a massive, big camera. So anyway, but I like the design. I think the design looks really nice. You know, I really do. But now they're saying down here just to come around, they think they've got about 900 photos in the day, so that's fine. And they said that they still had about a third left of the battery. The D-pad, they're saying, can be functioned for many different functions or programmed for many different functions. Looks like it's, you know, good joystick that's on this. Now they're saying the image quality, it's got a 32.5 megapixel sensor. and it is an APS-C sensor, so you're going to have that 1.6 crop against your full frame type cameras. What else is it saying? The ISO performance isn't bad at all considering the sensor size. And from what I've looked at the images, and there's some on here, it's probably on par with what Sony are producing with the A6400 and things like that. So it's very, very similar to what they're getting in that. The images look nice. I mean, you know, they do look nice and sharp and nice colour. I certainly don't think you're going to have a fault with that. It says, looking at the noise levels, even at mid-range of pushing ISO 1000, the photos hold well together. From my testing, it appears that around ISO 3200 is when the details start to wash away. And that's the exact same thing that I've found with the Sony A6000 series type cameras. You get really good results sort of up until 3200. If you start to go over that, particularly if you don't expose well, you start to really get affected by noise. So you know that's an issue. What else is it saying? This is much improved from the latest time I owned a Canon APS-C camera, the 7D Mark II. And it said ISO 800 was too much. So there you go. So they've made a massive improvement over, say, the 7D Mark II. And then there's just some pictures. I'll leave these links down below that you can have a look at them, where they're showing the noise reduction turned off in the camera. This is ISO 100. The one underneath is ISO 800, and it still looks pretty good. ISO 3200, you know, is starting to look a bit iffy. 6400 is looking pretty bad, and 3200 is starting to look really bad. So it's also saying new features, the in-body stabilization that can compensate for shake at up to 7 stops. I've heard mixed reports about that. I mean, I'm not sure sometimes how true all of these sort of 7 stops and everything are, because I've heard that reviewers say that the Sony version of their 4-stop cameras or 5-stop cameras are better than this. So I don't know where they're getting that from, but they're saying he was using a 100 to 500 millimeter lens, and it was 800 millimeter equivalent. That's because of the crop factor that they're putting into this. Well, they're saying in this that they could hold it very well or handheld for wildlife and sport. So it looks like it's, you know, it's working fairly well. Now, it also has this auto leveling mode that uses a physical sensor. That's pretty cool. I always have trouble with leveling. I always forget to bring on the grid, and then, you know, or even your level meter, and then you can sort of see that it's level. And then I'm always having to go in weddings and straighten horizons, particularly when there's, you know, oceans and stuff like that in the background. And yeah, I really should take more time. But this can get around that because it has this auto leveling feature, and I like that. I think that's a really good feature, actually. It must crop it somehow, I would think. But you know, I still think it's a nice feature to have. It can shoot 15 frames per second with a mechanical shutter, and up to 30 frames per second with an electronic shutter. According to a Canon representative, there are no drawbacks while shooting at the maximum mechanical frame rate. They're not mentioning the electronic, oh yeah, so it is showing here. It says the electronic shutter exhibits rolling shutter effects. Okay, and that's because it hasn't got a stacked sensor. Until these manufacturers bring out stacked sensors like what Sony have done with the A9 series and the A1, you know, you're always going to get some of this rolling shutter that's there. It's just, you know, it's just physics. So, but they're also saying down here that the buffer, I think, is fairly small. You can shoot 61 JPEG per RAW frames to a Sony Tough card with a write speed of 299. It could only take 55 frames with this other card. I think the buffer's not very good. It's saying a ridiculous 25 seconds with the Delkin. What's that? Clearing the buffer, it took... Oh, okay. That's 2 different type of cards. They're saying there that it took 8.5 seconds with a Sony Tough card and 25 seconds with this other Delkin card. Yeah, that's crazy. Autofocus has been taken from the EOS R7. So basically, it's going to have really good autofocus. I said last week that I think all of them now really have very, very good autofocus now. So I think the days where, you know, you had an issue with autofocus on these cameras really no longer exists. I think they're all, you know, really, really good now. It is inherited from this 6000 EOS R3 camera, I should say. It won't have the same speed since the R7 lacks a backside illuminated stacked sensor, but at its core, it has similarities, and it can recognise humans and animals, etc. They're saying very, very good for sports and tracking, things like that. The hit rate is exceptional for a 1,500 price. So it's pretty similar, you know, to an A6600. And it just says down here to sum up, overall I'm impressed with the camera, packs it so far into a compact body. It's enough to where a professionally skilled photographer might consider buying this for a second camera to access a deeper crop while retaining megapixels. It has a fast mechanical frame rate for an excellent image quality even in moderately low light conditions, and it gives a fair shake at mimicking the autofocus of the R3. So, you know, it looks like it really is a good release, and I think that, you know, looking at it, it seems to me that Sony do have to update their APS-C cameras. And I'm just wondering, the next story we're going to look at is talking about, I think it's the next story, is talking about the lenses that Sony have just released. And I do think that perhaps because they've done that, there is going to be another APS-C camera, you know, soon coming out, I hope. Obviously, that they could do better with, you know, the number of frames that you can capture. The video aspects certainly could be better. I mean, I think it's now the time where in APS-C we should be able to get 4K 60 at least. And perhaps a redesign of the body. I don't mind the body shape and everything like they are, but I do think you need dual card slots in them. And I think that would be a big benefit if they went up to a slightly larger body. You know, like I said, they could use something like an A7 III body, and I'd be quite happy with that too. I don't classify that as being a big body at all. I mean, you can let me know too whether you think, you know, that you'd be willing to sort of sacrifice that shape, you know, the A6400 shape. I still haven't got mine back. I got a call from Sony Pro Support yesterday. It's going to be sometime next week. It's probably hard to get parts. They have to replace the whole motherboard inside it, so I've just got to wait for that. So I'll get it back hopefully this coming week. I'm using the ZVE10 now. But, you know, I think I'd be willing to compromise a little bit on the body size, particularly to get, you know, those dual card slots. That's more important for me than anything else in those cameras. So I really would like that. But I do think, looking at what Canon have done with this camera, that Sony have to answer it, you know, with something that's a bit more high-ended than what we've got at the moment with the A6600, which is our, you know, I mean, that's meant to be the top camera that they've got for the APS-C models. So let me know what you think about that in the chat. I'll come back to these a little bit later, but because I can't display them for some reason. I've got no idea why they're not coming up. I'm still trying and it's just not showing. So that's that. So let me just switch back to this, and we'll go on to this next part, which is the pre-order of these lenses. And this is why I was talking about the Sony lenses, that are they going to bring out a new APS-C camera? Because really, until this stage, we've been getting them from other manufacturers like Tamron and stuff. They're the ones that have been producing all of the lenses for the APS-C cameras. Well, we've got 3 of them, and I'll just quickly go through them in a minute, but I just want to show you the price, because this shows the price of these. So the 10-20 is $748. Now, I like the look of this lens. I mean, I like the fact that, you know, it's got the aperture switch and things like that on it. But the thing that's missing on this camera is the stabilization. My 10-18 f4, so they're both f4 lenses. Yes, this is probably going to be sharper, but I really do like having the stabilization on that 10-18 millimeter lens. It means I can use it with my A6400, the ZVE10, you know, and things like that, and it's going to have at least some stabilization, and it certainly does help. So I probably wouldn't buy it for that reason alone, that I'd just keep my original 10-18 millimeter lens just because of that. Anyway, that's $748, and I'll go through these in a minute as well. The Sony 15 1.4 is $748. That's a G lens. I don't think the other one is a G lens, so that 10-20 is a G lens as well. And this bottom lens, which is the 11 millimeter, the 1.8 is $548. That's not a G lens though, but I think that's probably, for me, would be the pick of the bunch if I was, say, vlogging or something, because you really do want something wide on, you know, like an APS-C camera. And this would be a good focal length for that. So I think if I was buying any of these, I probably would just get this one. but that's me. I mean, let me know what you think and what you would get out of all of these. But let's just have a quick look at what Petapixel is saying about these lenses. So there's three of them, the 10 to 20 f4, there's the 15 1.4 and the 11 1.8. And they're saying they're reviewing it. And like I said, I'll leave those down below and you know, you can have a read of it. It's saying here that the appearance of the Sony 10 to 20 millimeter f4, I haven't read these, so I'm reading it for the first time, like I said, with you guys. I like to look at them at the same time you know we're talking about it, because I look at things and go, oh, or I think, well, that's not so good. In appearance, the Sony 10 to 20 f4 looks impressive. That it is a newer Sony lens for its stubby size, about 2.5 inches wide. I'm just seeing if there are a lot of extras on the side, including a power zoom rocker. That's nice. I mean, it is nice that you could do that. And I think if you use the remote control software, you can also use that zoom rocker as well. So, you know, that's a great feature there as well. And it has a focus mode switcher. So it doesn't have the aperture ring on this one, though, like it does on the other lens, I don't think. The miniature plastic focus and zoom rings have an infinite spin on them and feel fairly nice. I do prefer a hard lock on the zoom rings. I wish they'd do that, but anyway, they don't seem to do that. They have this infinite, you know, spinning zoom. I don't like that, but and it feels fairly nice in motion, but adding some rubber would have gone a long way to making them feel more premium. Fortunately, the lens does not expand in size as it zooms. That's a nice feature, particularly if you're using this on a gimbal and stuff, that it's not going to zoom in and out. So your balance, your weight of that is you know, really good if you're sticking this on a gimbal. It just says Sony claims that it is not only is the 10 to 20 the smallest ultra-wide APS-C zoom lens, but it's also 46% lighter than its competitors. It's a 6.2 ounces, 175 grams. And compared with the ZV-E10, the total package is extremely travel-friendly. And that's what it'll be good for. That's why I like my you know, 10 to 18. I think it's a great combination too, if you want to have that. While the front element is bulbous in shape, the lens still accepts a 62mm filter. The rear is a thin rubber gasket for some protection against dust and moisture. So it's not really weather protected. It's, you know, it's sort of just got that. They're saying the image quality uses 2 extra dispersion elements and 1 extra low dispersion aspherical element. I'm just trying to see what they say. It holds up its contrast well, and there is no easily apparent colour fringing at the high contrast edges. The lens flaring is clean as well. I mean, the images look pretty good to me. Testing the sharpness at 10mm at the centre, I found that wide open at f4 it was okay. 6.3 seems to be the sweet spot that they're talking about with this lens. And at f9, it starts to lose sharpness. Now, I'll probably expect it with that as well. You're going to get diffraction with these lenses as well. So it looks like the sweet spot, you know, is around 5.6 to 6.3, around that. At the corners, it was one stop down at 5.6, which looked its sharpest. Looking at the sharpness of the 20mm at the centre, f4 was an improvement over what it was seen at 10mm. So the 10mm wide open is obviously going to be a little bit softer overall. And it also says here that 6.3 was still the best. And when it stopped down to f13, the image began to soften as well. It just says here the corners were interesting because it seems like a more closed down aperture was the softer it got. Yeah, and that's unusual. Unlike the other two lenses today, which stopped down to f16, the 10 to 20 can stop down to f22. Shot at minimum focusing distance, you can see that it's reasonably close. None of these lenses are very, very good for their macro component, though. But, you know, it still looks reasonably good. You get a little bit closer at 20mm, obviously, than you do at 10mm. Vlogging is quite good because if you shot at the 10, you're going to get a decent vlogging as long as you don't get too close to it because you'll start to, you know, distort your face and stuff. That's at 20mm. Now, the 15 1.4, if you had to pick which of these new lenses looks most premium, it would be the 15 1.4. It does look very, very nice. And plus, you've got the aperture ring on this one as well. And it's a 1.4 aperture. I'm just trying to see what they say about this one. It weighs 7.7 ounces, 218 grams, which is a little heavier than the 10 to 20. When paired with the ZV-E10, the kit matches up well in size and is easy to carry around for long periods. What are they saying about this one? In my testing of the center sharpness, I saw that wide open at 1.4 was good. So this is pretty good, they're saying there at 1.4, which is great. Down to 3.5, it was at its best. And finally at F11 was when it started softening as well. If it was at 5.6 and it looked the sharpest. The images look quite nice too. Obviously there is some flaring, but you're going to get that with all of these lenses, but it doesn't look too bad at all. What else is it saying? Features a 7-blade aperture. That's about it for that one. Let's have a look at the 11mm f1.8. Tiny. I mean, this really is, you know, a little tiny thing. Compared to the 15mm f1.8 above, it is essentially just missing the aperture ring and the aperture D-click switch. These are still useful program buttons. The focus ring is plastic and has an okay glide, but compared to the 15mm, is more gritty feeling. I mean, I wouldn't expect that. It's not going to be that premium sort of lens that you know the G lenses have. This weighs 6.3 ounces, 178 grams. It's nearly the same weight as the 10-20 f4 above. What are they saying about this for image quality? Just like the 15, this one also has 3 spherical elements within the optical formula to help sharpness from the corner to corner. Let's see how it sounds. They said they found at 1.8 it can be a little soft, but sees good improvement at 2.5. Stopping down to f5 was the sharpest, and an f9 is where the lens will begin to soften. At the corner, I saw that the more closed down the aperture was, the softer it would get. This can only stop down to f16 as well. So I'll leave these down in the, you know, the box below, and you can have a look and just sort of see what you think about the images itself. It's just saying, are there alternatives? The previous, so it's mentioning the previous Sony 10-20mm f4 PZG announcement. The company also has the 10-18. That's what I have in the lineup and has for nearly a decade now. The one bright spot of this lens over the 10-20 would be the optical steady shot image stabilization. Otherwise, it's a choice to go for the new. Like I said, I do like using that stabilization that I've got with my 10-18. The new Sony 11mm 1.8 could be compared to the Rockion 12mm f2. It's still an ultra-wide-angle lens with a faster aperture, but it takes away a couple of the exterior features of the Sony. Now, would you buy them? Yes, considering the prices of the lenses. I mean, they are very, very well priced. So, I mean, you've got to look at it from that. You know, you're not paying for the, you know, the ultimate GM lenses with these. But I think for an APS-C, it's fine. There's another lens too that got sort of announced as well, which was the 16-28 DGN lens that's come out. Great optics for a modest price. So they're saying this is a really not a bad lens at all, but you can see it's pretty big. But this is a full frame lens though, so it's not a APS-C lens. This weighs 15.9 ounces and 450 grams. It's all metal by the look of it. It does, I think it does telescope. Yeah, it does. It probably does come out. I'm just seeing if it is saying it's telescopic. Overall, my impressions of the lens are positive. Both the zoom ring and the focus ring have an appropriate amount of tension to them. So it looks like that's nice. I also noticed the focus ring has a very smooth starts and stops, which will be suitable for video recording. See, that's good. I like it if it actually, you know, it does have that hard stop. No aperture ring, so that is a big miss in this one. And it's a 72mm thread as well. What are they saying about the image quality on this one? I'm just trying to see. The lens can handle having the sun or other bright light sources. It's shot exceptionally well, so it's very, very good for you know, getting rid of light coming in, flare. Looks nice. I mean, the images look actually nice. Testing the sharpness at the center of the frame at 16mm wide, open at 2.8, things start strong. So it looks like it's nice and sharp, wide open, which is terrific. Stepping down to f4 is where it's starting to look its best. And once you reach f11, the photo clearly begins to soften from diffraction. I mean, all of these lenses will soften from diffraction when you start to go up, unless you're paying an awful lot of money. But any lens will if you push it up too far. At the corners of 16mm, it was still f4 that looked the sharpest. At the 28mm and looking at centre sharpness wide open is okay, but still worse than it did at 16mm. At f8 it looked the sharpest as well. I think this looks like a pretty good lens. It looks pretty good to me. It just depends on whether you'd like, I still think, look, if you've got the money, you would obviously go for the GM, but I mean, it looks like it's going to be fairly good for the price. As a tool for photography, it excels in its image quality, giving me the sharpness and details I need as well. Are there alternatives? It just says priced at $900. So the price of this is pretty good. It's $900 there, and it says coming from the $900 Tamron 17 to 28, that lens is slightly smaller, slightly lighter, and has a shorter minimum focus distance of 7.48. The Tamron 17 to 28 is a good lens and would be worth considering. I've reviewed that one and I really liked it. So I haven't reviewed the Sigma, obviously, but I can certainly vouch for the Tamron 17 to 28. Anyway, that's there as well now. This is just an accurate size of these lenses, of how they'll look on the cameras themselves, if you wanted to sort of check how they'd appear on a camera, although they've put them on full frame cameras there, which is interesting. And then, what was this one? Oh no, that's already, I've done that already. Let me just get rid of that one. Also, I wanted to talk about this because I could be interested in this, because it's saying in Q1, the Nikon Z9 got 57% of the US market share. Time for Sony to step up their game once more. It seems to be the Z9 is actually doing very, very well, very well. And it really is a great camera. I mean, it's got everything that you need, and perhaps it is time that Sony starts to consider, if you look at this spec for spec, it probably is time that Sony starts to consider particularly updating the A9 series of cameras. But yeah, I mean, I think probably if I was shooting Nikon still and I hadn't changed to Sony, I wouldn't have moved over if this camera came out, because it has everything that I would have. But at the time, I mean, there's no way known I'm changing from Sony now. But I really do love the look of this camera. I love basically every feature that it has. It depends too whether you want the big, larger body or not. As against, say, the Sony A1. Price-wise, though, it's quite a bit cheaper, isn't it? I mean, you're basically $1,000 cheaper to go for the Z9. So I think Sony has to answer this. They've got to basically lower the price of the A1, particularly, or bring out a new version. Let me just see too down here. There's an actual questionnaire here. So they're saying, should Sony drop the price and add new features via firmware update? Yeah, that's probably going to happen. And it's also saying release a new A1 II by the end of 2022. Well, I'm hoping that is probably what would happen, but let's see what people say. Oh. Didn't come up. I was excited to see what they said there. I'm not going to go through all the details about the Z9, but you can read that if you go through it. But it is a really, really good release, and congratulations to Nikon for doing that. I was worried for them for a while there. And the last story here is smartphone. Now, this is a really interesting one too. This was shared on Petapix, and I think it was also shared on Sony Alpha Rumors as well. But they're saying here, this is Sony's CEO of Semiconductor Division, and he's saying that he believes that smartphone cameras will be superior to SLRs by 2024. Now, is he talking about, he's obviously talking about not the mirrorless cameras, he's talking about digital SLRs, I would say. Like I said, I haven't read this either. Does he mention? Yeah, single reflex cameras. Okay, well, that makes sense. Let me just keep coming down to see if there's anything else in here that I think would say, be interesting. It says that Sony expects the average size of high-end sensors to double by 2024. he's talking about smartphone sensors. These two factors, together with what it calls quantum saturation and artificial intelligence processing, Sony believes that interchangeable lens cameras, ILC, will be left behind. Well, he's even saying ILCs there, by smartphone technology. I think he's still talking about SLRs. I mean, it is really going to be interesting to see what happens. I believe every review I've seen of the new Sony Xperia, whatever it is, we can't get that here in Australia, but apparently everything about that camera is amazing that's in that camera. I'm often amazed by what my iPhone gives. You know, I mean, the lens in these is just unbelievable. I can just picture what this will be like in a couple of years. So who knows? I mean, it's certainly going to be interesting. The thing that is hard, obviously, is to have your longer lenses, but they're starting to do that with you know, AI now that is starting to look really, really good. And when you're looking at using the fake AI that it gives you in these cameras now, it really is starting to match what you get in sort of using these zoom lenses. So it's really interesting to see what's going to happen in the future. And as they start to go to much more higher megapixels, well, then you can start to use crop factors in that as well, which is going to give you much, much bigger zooms, because you'll be able to zoom into the actual image frame itself. And if they start to put, say, software like gigapixel inside the phones as well, which is probably going to happen, it'll end up being that quick that it will resize and you know, rescale itself basically instantly. You're going to be in for some amazing things with digital cameras in the future, that's for sure. I always remember Jerry Gionis. I love Jerry Gionis' work. I think he's probably, you know, one of the best wedding photographers in the world. He got a wedding album that he won at WPPI, and he shot it completely with an iPhone. Remember, again, it's the talent. It's not really the gear. If you're really good photography, you are still going to get really good shots with an iPhone. Obviously, when it starts to get late and stuff like that, you're going to have ISO issues. But if you've got complete control of lighting, you'd be surprised at what you can do. So, you know, this is really interesting, and I was fascinated by this when I read this, and I certainly can see what's going to happen in the future. You know, I think you're going to find that you're going to start to struggle more and more and more with competing against, you know, these high-end phone cameras that are going to be coming out. It's still not going to stop work from professionals, because you need to be a professional to get a really, you know, decent result, to have the idea for the posing and everything else, the concept. But if you're just out there taking photos, it's certainly going to have effect. Let me know in the chat whether you think I'm right on this or not. So let's go over to the Q&A. Let me just switch back over here. Because, like I said, I can't bring the questions up, unfortunately. I don't know what on earth is going wrong with that. I'll try and fix that straight after the show, which is really a nuisance. I tested it last night and it worked. It's weird. So I'll just sort of read through some of these, and then I'm going to go and have my morning coffee. Kerry's working today. She's a good girl. She's out there earning family for her man. Where were we? So let's keep coming down. John said, he was talking about my hat. He said, the Bota is one of those flat straw hats like in the 1920. I've seen a few great ones lately in New York City. Cool. Dana's here as well, saying hi from Florida. G'day, Dana. Thank you so much, Long Rider, for that donation. Really appreciate it, mate. Heath is saying, hello, David and friends. John, Long Rider said to John, did you order the R7? Charbox said, I don't like the 4K 60 being subsampled or highly cropped on the R7. Yeah, I'd have to see it to see what the quality is like there. I think if it's cropped, though, it's not that subsampled, isn't it? Isn't it just downsampled? I thought it was anyway. I could be wrong, Charbox. John is saying also to Long Rider, looks like it might be a good fit. He's talking about that R7 for birding and macros alike, maybe for vlogging. He also said, John also said, I have a very long but fairly thin fingers. The R10 has much less space between the grip and the lens mount than the R7. George said, hey, David, don't know if I should wait for the Sony A7R5 or just get the A1. Yeah, it's a tough one, George. If you need a camera now, I mean, you can't go wrong with the A1, can you? I mean, you really can't go wrong with the A1. I think there's probably going to be a new version of A9s coming out too. If you can wait, I would probably just wait a little while just to sort of see what happens, whether that's an A1 series that comes out, whether it's a new A7 R4, R5 I mean. I probably would wait unless you need it now. I mean, if you need it now, well, then you need it now, and it's not, you know, it's nothing to worry about. John also said, yes, the 7D Mark II is trash at high ISO. Ike is saying, yes, similarities. Similar to like how the Sony A7 III was just as good as the Sony A9. Steve also said the new Fuji has a stack sensor. Yeah, that Fuji looks really good, actually, the new Fuji. I'd love to have a loan of one of those. John also said the R7 4K up to 4K 30 is oversampled. Yeah, that's what I thought. From 6.3K, which is better than the R6. Long Rider said, Sony should be ashamed they even sold a stack sensor to Fuji for their APS-C, and Sony has none. I know, I don't know why, Long Rider. Why would you do that? I don't really understand that either. It's a bit weird, isn't it? I don't quite get it either. Photo Ike Miyake said, I feel like the AF and features of the A6600 were amazing. The only problem with the A6000 series is that the video features were a bit lacking compared to the competition. Also, yeah, the rolling shutter is terrible, Ike. I mean, that's one thing you've got to consider with those, and I've got two of them. You know, I've got the A6 400 and also the ZVE10, and the rolling shutter is pretty bad. They need to fix that. That is for sure. The focus, though, is incredible. I mean, the focus is amazing, and the image results too are good, but they need 4K 60. John said, wildlife shooters and camera reviewer says folks will complain about the R7 sensor and some specs. The XH2S will be slammed for its price. Takeaway, no one's ever happy. Yeah, true. Ike also said the Fuji has 10-bit video and 4K 60. I know. It looks, they have since the X-T3, Ike. They've really been good. I sometimes have been tempted to get one, but I've never really gone around to doing it, but I do like the Fuji cameras, particularly, you know, the lenses and everything are really amazing. John said, David Oslaw or anyone, APS-C versus ZVE10. Or anyone, APS-C versus ZVE10. You're talking about the Canon? The ZVE10's good. I mean, I like it. I mean, I'm using it now. There's nothing wrong with that camera at all. It's, like I said, it's just for me, it's more the fact that it only has the one card slot that is the killer for that, you know. YouTube also said those lenses are impressively lightweight. They certainly are. Yep, they really are. Flip screen, please, Sony. The Happy Clam said, I wonder how the Sony 11 compares to the Samyang 12. Well, that'd be interesting to see. Like I said, the Samyang have really upped their game. If you're looking at lenses themselves, Samyang have really improved their lenses now. So have Tamron. You know, both of those companies now have amazing lenses now. Ike's just talking about a model that he's got working on. Greg, g'day Greg, how are you, mate? I thought Sony were going to cease APS-C cameras altogether after the A7C. I know, well, there sort of was rumours about that. I mean, I'd like an A7C in that body. That'd also be pretty cool, as long as they could put your dual card slots in. That'd be also an interesting sort of market as well. You know, or even an FX3, perhaps something like that as a body. It'll be interesting to see how they then would price it and things like that. But it's getting to the point where I think they're going to have to do something with the body if they want to take these cameras much further on, I think. So they are going to lose the APS-C market. Are you talking about Sony there, Lewis? Greg said, you would think Sony and others will be adding computational computers to their cameras. It has to happen. I mean, if you look at what's happening in the phones, it's got to happen too in cameras. It's just got to happen sooner or later, that's for sure. Alan Jones just said Sony. Raymond said, hello Dave, maybe off topic, but I've always wondered. I have the A7S III as my only camera. And agree, pictures can look magical. I love the A7S III. It's still by far my favourite camera. Do you think we would ever see something similar but in high megapixel form? I don't know, because then you start to get into the A7 IV sort of lineup and things like that. I'm not sure we will. I'm happy to keep it at that megapixel though, to be honest. If ever I need to go massive, remember I can do 20 by 30 at that resolution. If I do need to go bigger than that, honestly, gigapixel now, I've done some incredible blow-ups by using that, and you would never tell the difference. I might only do that per wedding, one image, say maximum, say 3 images, where I would have to blow up large images like that. So I'm not worried about it. And I've got 20 by 30 covered at 12 megapixels, so I'm not worried. So unless you crop in on the frame by doing wildlife, or you love actually cropping in camera, the 12 megapixels ample. So I don't think they will. They could potentially put it up to 24, perhaps. If they made, say, the A7 IV, you know, if that became standard at 30 odd megapixels, and then you've then got 24 sort of below that, they could make an A7S III, you know, like a 24 megapixel camera or something like that. George said, so many of us have moved to great Sony full frame options. It will take something really special to give Sony APS-C a second look. There is just a market that can't afford a full frame camera. That's what Lewis is saying. Yep, true. And also sometimes they want the reach, you know, for that price. Don't forget, thumbs up, guys. Oh, yes, let me try this one. Let me just see if it comes up. Where are we? Pre-show, thanks. Social. Oh, is this going to work? Yep. Check that out. Why is everything else working but the comments? I don't understand. It's just so annoying. I wonder if it's a bug in that software. It must be a bug in that software. I'll have to report it. Thanks for saying that, Raymond. Really appreciate it. Jean said, how is the difference between lossless RAW and compressed RAW? I don't see any difference at all. I never ever use the lossless RAW. I just always use the compressed RAW. I've never been able to see a difference in, you know, how they look. So I believe you probably might be able to if you pixel peep in, but I've never seen the difference. Daria said, good point, David. Considering how far the smartphone camera is going, I think that proper cameras will go towards some kind of revolution. It's been from a digital SLR to mirrors. Yep, true. I mean, I just wish Apple would bring out a phone, honestly, a camera, and I could just put this on the back of the camera and then use this as the interface. That would be like the ultimate thing for me. Imagine Sony if they put their new Xperia line camera and you could plug that straight on the back of some, you know, mirrorless SLR with the big lenses and stuff like that. How cool would that be if you're using that interface and that beautiful screen? You know, that's the way it should be. You know, I mean, I really do think it would be amazing if they did that. And as Lewis said, yeah, computational photography is the way that it's going to go. And I think that's about it, guys, because I'm going to go and have a coffee. So it's only a fairly quick one today. I think, oh, well, we've been probably about 40 minutes or so. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. Really appreciate it. Look, have a great weekend. Hope you really enjoy yourselves. And I'm just going to go in and get a nice coffee, as I say in my New York accent, which is terrible. Now, let me bring this up because I want to see. It should show pictures of all of you guys as well. Let me just bring this up and see if it works. Oh, it's meant to bring pictures up, so that's not even working either. Oh, man. When things don't work, I'll just have to quit that now. And now I'm going to switch to the ending. Thanks, everyone. See you all in the next video. Bye for now. That didn't work either. Oh, boy. I love it. What one are we on? Oh, it's 4. Let me go here. Okay, bye-bye. This is it. See you guys. It's still not working. Well, yeah, baby. Yeah. Yeah.
it's just another Friday.